Hey, what's good, people? Still here.
Not going away.
I know. Guess who's back? That's Wendy Jones, people. This is the Option Podcast. Buckle up, baby. We got a lot to talk about. The episode starts right now. Let's go, Wendy.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
You sent me a list of topics. I'm like, let's dig in, man.
Yeah.
This is good.
All right, what's up, people? This is episode 134. It's Wendy Jones, Jason DeVeas. Thank you for having me back in your living room. The most important thing, thank you guys for keeping me in your life. You know, I've been in Facebook jail for a little bit, and they still won't tell me what. If I did something wrong, I want to fix it. If I did nothing wrong, then reinstate my account. But the amount of shares that I got has kept the podcast viewership on this amazingly high level. And the game, like Qatar against USA,
Yes. Yeah.
I had 14,000 views on YouTube, on Facebook, which is, I thought YouTube would the numbers would be better on YouTube, but because you, my listeners, my followers, who are ingratiated in the sport of volleyball, and just people who want to follow so we can talk shit. Wow. Great support system, man.
Awesome.
Great support system till we get this really, really going again, you know? And I was telling you, Wendy, before we start, because we're going to talk about Babylon B, we're going to talk about Lia Thomas, we're going to talk Lia Thomas. Lia Thomas, not Lynn. Okay. We're going to talk about so many things, but there was a part of me that just liked it. When I was doing this a few years ago, it was just a tube cast.
Right.
I would just do the beat. I'd interview Taylor Crabb. Only 600 people would watch it. And I was okay with that because it was 600 diehards.
Yeah.
And the numbers didn't matter to me because I knew who listened to it, because I got more commentary and feedback from the 600 people than I did 18,000.
Totally.
So
it's organic community.
So it was 600 maniacs,
engaged,
fucking
savages.
Yes.
Exactly.
So the reason why I started this podcast all volleyball heavy, because we're gonna go another route in a minute, was because I was angry at the wrong people. My anger, my ire, my frustration. Wendy, it comes from a real place. I moved here. I didn't know anybody. I did this.
Same.
You know, I know you always get help from a friend here and this and that, but there's a bulk of it where you're comfortable saying, I did this myself.
Yeah.
I did this. I made something out of nothing myself.
I've watched you. It's amazing.
And anything that gets in the way of that, I always say it's gonna lose, but they're not losing right now. I've lost and am losing, and I'm trying to get back. So, guys, message me if you know how to get in contact with Facebook, because I'll get in the viewership anyway, but I might divorce myself from them if this continues to happen, because YouTube, I'm already taking the certification exam that allows them to speak more freely, so they know I'm not a bot. Theo Brunner got 11,000 views on that. My boy MC Dive got 13,000 views on YouTube. So my average viewership is 13,000 anyway.
Yeah.
On Facebook, and you don't have to be a member.
Right.
To whatever. So I'm gonna do more of my live premieres and all that stuff on that. But
you mean on YouTube?
On YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, but because Facebook, I have this affection for the people who supported me, men from 30 to 55.
Yeah.
That's Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, tell them where to find you.
Yeah. Savvy Simo got 24,000 views.
Dude, my
Lori Yakamura got 30,000. Yeah.
Savvy, my podcast with her came out yesterday.
Blew up.
She's just such a rock star. She's such a rock star.
Yeah. Tony's the one that had a story to tell in that partnership, Tony Rodriguez, but Savvy,
both of them do,
but Savvy's the one that just keeps going and going and going.
But both of them, like the adversity, I love those stories. So
yeah. And we went 2 hours and 20 minutes. Nobody, I mean, there's very few people that want to do anything for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And the younger you are, your attention span is like boom.
Right. But
so.
She's a good one to talk to for sure.
Yep. So I listened to Jimmy Dore.
Okay.
And Jimmy Dore is basically saying the Babylon Bee got their Twitter account suspended for calling Rachel Levine, who's a transgender admiral, right?
4-star
Yeah.
admiral
Yeah.
and deputy health and human services secretary.
Yeah. That
Or
so
assistant.
they were the Babylon Bee. For anyone listening, Babylon Bee is a satire. They're like the centrist and Republican Onion. So they say things that aren't true because they just aren't, you know, and because it's satire.
Yeah.
Satire, and by its definition, is ridicule, irony, parody, sometimes caricature, a mixture of, but included but not limited to all of those things, Wendy. So they got suspended for saying something that was, I believe, hate speech.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And I guess for everybody who's navigating or listening to this podcast, before we go any further, I'll save you the time. There is zero hate speech. If you want to cancel me or flag me because we're having the conversation, then I to say that that's unfair goes whatever. But to promote hate speech or to promote misinformation is one thing, but to put us in a position where you can't talk about it at all, this is the United States of America. We don't do that shit here. That includes private companies. You know, we you know, they have to have a policy.
Right.
If it's hate speech, delete this. If it's misinformation, delete this. But you can't be consistent with your own policy. Your own policy says that we're allowed to talk about these things as long as we don't step over the line. And right now, we are not going to step over any lines.
Not.
I took an oath of office to self-honesty and provoking thought, and that's what we're doing. Before I go any further,
Absolutely.
So it's the only reason why it came up is because Rachel Levine is one of the finalists, or I think one of the 20 candidates or 10 candidates for Time Magazine's Woman of the Year.
Okay, I thought it was USA Today, but I might.
It was USA. Well, USA Today reported it, and it's Time Magazine.
Oh, it's Time Magazine.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And I want to make sure I'm right about that too, because they're gonna be like, gotcha.
I know.
But so in a satirical attempt, it's like, hell, let's give her Man of the Year too, you know. So and it was something that I thought was funny. I personally, in my humor, and you know, my humor off camera is not for everybody. It's crude, it's rude, it is ridiculous. But even me, who can go hard in the paint, I didn't find this funny. Yeah. I didn't find it funny, but so what? If you don't find it funny, then you don't find it funny.
Well, and the thing that really about these people that get canceled lately, so often, I mean, there is so much content out there. When they cancel them, then it becomes bigger news and more people go to it. What I can't figure out is, like, people are just talking. If you just by all means, cancel. Or there have to be guidelines for hate speech and all these things. But there is an agenda out there that is going on. And to me, it's actually putting more eyes on people that apparently Twitter doesn't want Babylon Bee saying these things. But when they cancel them, everybody goes and writes articles and goes and listens and pays more attention to it. And everybody becomes so sensitive. We're just calling attention to but none of it is, so much of the stuff that's being canceled is not hate speech. And it's coming from one side. Yeah. It's coming from one side.
It is. I think we all know, and at this point, even like my friends on the left can concede that, I guess I'll just say it plainly, free speech is still free for if you parrot the free speech, which is predominantly run by big tech, which is predominantly the left. Right. Is that phrasing it properly? Because it seems like the only ones getting flagged are the people from the right, and their argument is it's because they're not telling the truth, and I'm like, neither is whatever. I mean, since when did free speech matter? What's true? All right. So, but there's something under this that before we got on the podcast that I just figured out now. This isn't about canceling people who are celebrated or who have notoriety or fame or have a following, because like you said, all it does is bring more eyes on them, right? Like Dr. Jeff Malone, not Jeff Malone, because Jeff Malone is the new president of CNN. Dr.
Peter?
No, it's Peter McCullough.
Peter
McCullough.
But
it doesn't.
The other, the
but
guy
but anyway, the two most important things that people want to remember is, one, it attracted more viewership. It's probably his most viewed episode besides Alex Jones on YouTube.
Exactly what I've
and
noticed.
two, It's still up.
Yeah.
It wasn't canceled. It wasn't censored. It's still there. Out of all of the episodes that Joe Rogan removed for maybe hate speech or using the N-word or this or whatever other trouble he got into, guys, it's still there. Those episodes are still there. So it's not that. I just figured it out just now when you were talking about it. It's about censoring the people who don't have the support. I just got in Facebook trouble, right?
Okay.
Talking
Yes,
about,
right.
but maybe talking about Joe Rogan or Whoopi Goldberg. If I get censored, does Joe Rogan have my back? No. So it's really about mediating or diffusing the situation before other people think it's okay for them to do it. Because those people can get canceled in a heartbeat, removed, not being told why, and no one will care. And they know they can't afford an attorney to do something about it, or do they have the inclination to keep working day and night to understand the why and this and that. So it's not. It is an attack on them. We're not wrong. It is an attack on free. It is an attack on free speech.
Yes.
And it is an attack on you not being in lockstep. And I mean, when I say lockstep, I mean anything that veers even narrowly is you're gone.
Right.
So it's not about those guys. It is about them, but it's more. It's about getting rid of the people who can't do anything about it.
True.
It's silencing the country, basically, because the rest of the country is not famous.
Right. And what do I love about the podcasting world is you're getting the stories of people that are not in the 24/7 mainstream news media. And there's some amazing stories out there. And when you look at this country, we are a 50-50 country. Look at the way these elections break down.
Yep.
Like, we're not all one way and never have been. And there's all kinds of opinions out there. And now, where we've gotten with technology and these big tech companies is that there is a platform for everyone to speak. But when you start picking and choosing one storyline or one, one view on the political spectrum, you start favoring one, we're really getting into quickly very un-American stuff.
Yeah.
Because these conversations have been going around on people's dinner tables for generations. Like, so if we're going to have a platform where everyone gets to speak, and then you see these other companies popping up, the Getters of the world, that are going to try to do another social media platform and we're not going to censor you. Well, like, they're just going to keep popping up because America is not going to shut up. Okay,
No,
Americans are not going to shut up.
That here.
We don't. We talk. We want to have these conversations.
But
and the more we silence people, the more thin-skinned we become, and everybody goes to their little corner and becomes one of some little. They want us all, peeled apart in these tiny, our own little group. When really that's never what's been good for society.
Well, it's about divide and conquer.
Yes, exactly. And then the elitists take over.
Yeah, but. It's about divide and conquer because, hold on, sorry, I want to go to my split screen and see if I can move me more to the middle. Oh, that's better.
There you go.
The smaller the groups are, the easier they are to vanish. Totally. So if there are too many groups, they steer the traffic and the direction back to a place where the FCC regulates free speech, right? Like the only place you can say what you want and still have a show, oddly enough, is on TV, where TV, you weren't allowed to say fuck and shit and all that stuff. Right. And the reason why people went to the internet is because they
were
looking, they were looking for a platform that's unfiltered. And the whole purpose of being on the internet and having these shows is because you're allowed to speak unfiltered.
Yeah.
And free speech, again, is not popular speech. Popular speech doesn't need protection.
Yeah.
Right. And
Majority
my friends are going to
rules.
think I'm crazy for coming out saying all this stuff because it's like, dude, you're just begging to be canceled again. But but look, at the end of the day, you can do all the right things and get canceled anyway. So I'm just
one of the
I'm
first
beat to
things
death.
you learn though in high school U.S. history is majority rules, minority rights. Like, where are the minority rights for the speech that is not hate speech? Yeah. It is just not popular. So why is that okay to cancel? That is not. It's not American.
I also think these brands are hurting themselves. Dave Chapelle once said, "Twitter's not a real place." Yeah. Right. I remember them saying, he says, they came up to me and said, they're talking about you on Twitter. He's like, I don't care. Twitter's not a real place. And everyone clapped because it's Chapelle. But his stronger point is the more that they decide arbitrarily that people can only speak one way.
Right.
Twitter won't be a place.
Yeah.
Twitter won't. He'll be right. It won't be a real place because it is a real place, but it won't be if they keep doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Twitter's not alone on that, but they're not alone on that. And I mean, just today, I was actually just trying to pull up the article because the Babylon Bee said they're not apologizing, right?
Right.
They don't apologize because Twitter, look, because it became popular, Twitter's like, all right, let's meet in the middle. Let's split the difference. If you remove the tweet,
right,
12 hours from now, your account will be back up. And the guy who runs Babylon Bee said no. He said, I mean, I'm paraphrasing in my own words. I'd rather slide down a razor blade and land in an alcohol bath than give you fuckers the satisfaction. Yeah. And I think it's a very brave thing to do because if I'm running Babylon Bee, I would probably split the difference, but I'd be blind to setting a precedent.
Yeah.
Well,
I can appreciate people that stick to their principles.
Yeah.
I do think that's where entrepreneurs and people who are trying to get a message out there, like, to be authentic, you got to say what you mean and mean what you say and not get bullied by the big guys.
Yeah.
That's...
Well, here's something else that'll get me canceled, right? I did a search because I wanted to know about the Rachel Levine and I wanted to know about Babylon Bee. So and this is funny, I did a keyword search, Google search.
Okay.
Babylon Bee not apologizing.
Okay.
And this is what popped up. So, Babylon Bee not apologizing.
Oh my gosh.
So this is the most recent article, May 26, 2021. That's what pops up first. Here's another one. Twitter apologizes after briefly suspending the Babylon Bee. This is August 17th, 2020.
I mean,
This is 2 years ago when Twitter was actually apologizing. May 26, October 2021, October 2020, so June 2021. There's nothing on the first 8 or 10 categories.
And that's a huge news story right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're being fed. It's being controlled. What's coming out to us? Like, it is not okay. And they hold the keys. What do you do about that?
I don't know, but I did that so you could lose your mind.
You got me, Jay.
But man, I got you with the truth.
Yeah.
I got you with the truth because
and people need to see that.
What I just said to you was not only true, but I just showed you a Google search.
Right.
And maybe I'm old. Maybe us old folk don't know how to
put the right keywords in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. But I will say this just for the record on a personal level, right? My sister, 2 tours in Afghanistan, she's a lesbian. Okay. My aunt, who's one of the most brightest people in our family, but spent a lot of time at Bellevue Hospital because she's too bright. Yeah. She's a lesbian. I have a great aunt who I'm 90% sure is transgender. Okay. When it wasn't a popular thing, okay? And my family's going to give me a shitload of blowback for that. So I, on a personal level, do not have a problem if you identify with being one thing or another. Right. As someone who has a black mother and a white father, I spent pretty much all of my life, even now, identifying with being both. Mm-hmm. I don't make people make me choose, but I have to admit, growing up on Flatbush Avenue, I identify more with being a black man than a white man. I'm just a light-skinned brother. Mm-hmm. So I have been raised to be fair. Some would say fair to a fault.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you?
That's your story. That's exposure to different perspectives and having to walk that, like, you are a light-skinned, blue-eyed guy that completely identifies with the African American community. Yeah. Right? Why should you have to choose?
Yeah. Well, thank God the people I grew up with. I mean, you get teased a lot as a kid.
Well,
I've been called all kinds of names and this and that. But retrospectively, they consider me. They're like, you're black. You're one of us. Shut up.
But why do you have to choose?
I don't.
Because you are authentically who you are, and you're doing your thing.
Well,
that's what needs to matter. Not all of these categories that we're all getting shoved into and waiting to be offended by the next thing someone says.
Well, that's why I think as much as I hate cancel culture and the woke mob, that's where I think they kind of do get a bad rep. I think, and this is the only 2 seconds I'll defend them, is without them, the whole bullying thing, you know what I'm saying, would still on a level where people are killing themselves because they're being bullied, and that. So I'm glad that generation of people exists, because it gets rid of that. I mean, we're going to get into the whole question of is the call out culture the new bully, because I wanted to talk to you about that too. But I'm thankful for that, because me growing up, it's crushing to be called these racial slurs of white, nigger, wigger, Oreo cookie, zebra, newspaper, like all of these things that the same people are crying over this person being insensitive, or that we're the same people who grew up calling me those names. Right. But I'm supposed to grow a set, right? I'm someone supposed to man up, right? Yeah. But so I thank God that this culture at least makes us mindfully aware that people, you don't know who you're messing with, and sometimes you got to chill. Have they gone too far? Yeah, because that's where you're like, you're defending them. You be real careful.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I can appreciate what you're saying completely, because I'm also all about the self-awareness piece of understanding what's your intention with the words that you say, and allowing people to be who they are. I don't want to go back to the struggles that people have had in any category of humanity. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's the LGBT community or African American community, or I was talking with a friend the other day that grew up in the South Bay, and he's Asian, and he was talking about his experience growing up in the, he's older than me, so late 50s, and growing up around here and being the only Asian person, and what that was like, and having to come through his life, and the self-awareness that has come from that, from going to that, from being that very self-conscious person, to now when he walks in a room, he's like, I don't even think about it anymore. But he's 58 years old. It's taken that long to you come through these things. They leave scars. So I'm all about helping the younger generation understand who they are, so that they don't, and not have to be bombarded with having someone else tell you who you are. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Don't let anybody tell you who you are. I mean, but you have to understand from inside. So if those bullies do come, you know who you are. You don't let them tell you who you are.
Yeah. Having an identity crisis is not a bad thing. I mean, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something we have to go through with life, all right? And I guess being biracial, it highlights it more than some other people. Barack Obama, growing up, he had to go through this identity crisis. I read his book, The Promise, and I read a book previously written, and in so many ways, we're it's amazing how much alike we are, except he might be more squeaky cleaner than me. I mean, You run as as identifying with being a black president. There is someone out there probably looking. There's a team of monkeys in a room looking for your worst moments. So
no doubt about it.
That dude has to be. He is squeaky clean.
Well, you're both two very intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is. Yeah. I might make more sense than him, somebody, but in the end, retrospectively, we're always more polite to our presidents, looking back. Like, history is always more kinder or less kinder to some people. Like, this includes Trump, too. This includes George W. Bush, right? Who everyone calls this warmonger. I didn't think he was a warmonger. I just thought he was a dumbass that listened to Dick Cheney,
We do tend to get a little more nostalgic as they move on and out of office. They're usually sitting there with really low approval ratings most of the way through their presidency, and then we develop some nostalgia for them after they leave.
Yeah. So fair to a fault, and this is important. This is why this is something I wanted to say, and I want to talk about Rachel Levine a little bit more, and talk about what an awesome human being she is. But fair to a fault gets a nosebleed beating because you start seeing things for what they are, deriving from either facts or a heightened level of self-honesty, where it looks like you're picking sides of a person when you're really not. You're just picking sides of what you think is right and what's wrong, right? Yeah. For example, if you're against Trump, if you're not a Trump person, But if you acknowledge that he did a good job not getting us into these regime-changing wars, which isn't completely true, right? Oh my God, Jason's praising Trump. I'm not.
It's the all or nothing effect.
Yeah.
We can put it on any current event topic. You can't, if you didn't, whether we're talking, I don't want to. I'm not going to say it. I'm not bringing it up.
No, but I'm talking about if you agree that this person said the sky is blue and the water is wet.
Yeah.
It's not praising them. Like Bernie Sanders has been accused of praising Castro and accused of praising the president of Venezuela when he commented that the person's healthcare system and the way they run it, that's the way to go.
Okay.
Now, I think anyone that says that and says that you agree with everything they say, or that you're praising them, or that you're somehow on their side.
Right.
Very much like you said, the application of use of language and context. We talked about that earlier. I think anyone who takes these words and language is thinking about language as a child.
Yeah.
And Sam Harris said this, and he said it was more about the use of the N-word and context, but it very much applies to agreeing with someone that you dislike. Anyone that takes those words and changes the context to make them mean something differently only shows, one, you're a child to the English language. You're not a full-grown adult. And two, you lack the ability to solve real problems in the world because you have become hysterical about imaginary ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always bringing it back to the bigger picture, because all these things get singled out in tiny little pieces, and you can't be nothing. As we know, as we grow older, nothing is all, there's no black and white. There is so much, there's very little black and white, I should say. And there's so much in the middle. I mean, you can't argue that we don't have a problem with our healthcare system. You can't argue that there's not something going on with climate change. You know what I'm saying? But people make you take one side way over here or one side way over here. And the truth is, generally speaking, down the middle. And how are we going to have that conversation?
Yeah.
If everyone's camped out over here because they're only getting one piece of, one side of the news, or they're only going down their rabbit hole, right? We need that conversation in the middle. And people have to be open-minded enough and have a little bit thicker skin that I feel like we used to have. And as generations go on and what our kids are being exposed to, they're not going to have that thick skin. We need to have these conversations. Yeah. They're not hurting anybody.
No, they're not. No, that's the rationalization.
Yeah.
That's the excuse they're using.
Yeah.
And this kind of speech, they think, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
This kind of speech will lead someone to commit violence against someone else that is a marginalized group.
But look how far we've come with marginalized groups.
Yeah.
I have so many friends that were gay in high school.
Right.
My generation, I'm 47, coming through that, super difficult. Right. We're all friends today. They'll tell you their stories. Like it was really hard for them. I look now and go, we've made progress. I feel like people are more allowed to be who they are, and I am all for it.
Right.
Right? I mean, I want everybody to be who they are and be able to express that, as long as they're not going out and being violent or emotionally abusive, and for the most part, people aren't.
I also think some people, you need to give them time, right?
True.
Because where we have taken off with that is a good thing.
Yes.
But there's these areas where we've landed that just gives a black eye to us as human beings. Like January 6th.
Yeah. Oh, God. If you
like
look
the
back
whole,
at the video
like the whole
I
Stop
did,
the Steal or whatever and all that stuff. Like January 6th is really what started having these social networks hunker down on free speech, because the whole fear that a whole bunch of people are going to get together and do something about it based on your opinion. I guess still even now, 2 years removed from it or a year removed from it, is still something everyone considers dangerous. And as Americans, we have to take these these things. And it's hard to call January 6th an outlier because it was such a whatever,
No.
but at the end of the day, it really was. It's an aberration on how free speech can take a black eye.
Right. But I'm never going to say that violent protesting is, I am never going to be on the side of violent protesting. Okay.
No.
Peaceful protesting is the American way. I don't care if you're talking about Black Lives Matter or January 6th, climate change, women's rights, whatever you're talking about, peaceful protest is the American way. Like, you're not, I don't believe in anything that causes harm and violence. And so shut that stuff down. But don't pick and choose. Don't pick and choose. Like, don't tell people that they have to be in their house and wear masks and all this stuff and then let these riots go on and say it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not this, it's not. Like, the rules need to apply across the board.
They do. And I think the reason why this is worth having a conversation is because again, where we take off and where we land, we have to be right in our assertions. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a lot of my Republican friends that bring up the riots that happened the summer before January 6th and say, what about that? And I would always tell them, January 6th was clearly about politics. Clearly it was about a stop this deal, where what happened the summer before turned into a political movement. It got hijacked by politics. Yeah. This, like, January 6th wasn't hijacked about politics. That was about politics. That started about politics. So that's where I think there's a huge difference. You have a marginalized group in the United States of America that just didn't want to get shot in the back and have someone's knee on their neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So you'll have a protest. It's loud. They're angry. Yeah. And then it spills over into something on a riot. And now you got white people, you got people looting, you got doing all this stuff. Exactly. But I think the reason why I think it's different, it's the same as far as angry behavior and outrage and something that boils over until something spills to violence. Right. Yeah. It's the same in that respect, but it's very, very different because you didn't see people who were protesting peacefully. And you didn't see people who were rioting. Because I won't call violent protest a protest. You don't see either one of those groups flashing a Biden sign. It got hijacked by politics because Black Lives Matter was supposed to be a leftist movement. Where if you actually saw them in 2016, they infiltrated everybody. They infiltrated Bernie Sanders' speech, Black Lives Matter. They took over that. They tried to take over Jeb Bush. Hillary Clinton, she had security. Man, she shut that shit down, because you can't say that name 3 times, right? Yeah. So as a model or as an ideal that got hijacked, all of those people that believe that that was an unjust murder is a Democrat. And anyone that says it's anything against the police, you're a liberal, right? And if you support the police, if he did something 5 years ago that cop was psychic enough to know to lean on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that person's identified as a Republican. And you can't tell me that the media for that and January 6th made it as sensational as possible I'm not saying with the intention to take away our freedoms, but the result of them sensationalizing this to get their ratings or to push whatever agenda they have has resulted into the motto of we're willing to give up our freedom for security.
Yeah. And that is, when you get to the base of it, that is so un-American.
No, it's not the American way.
It is not the American way.
We don't do that shit here. I mean, look, we've already taken this podcast too far as far as like getting flagged or whatever, but
shoot.
But I it's not. I mean, it's important to people listening. This is not hate speech. This is something we have to. In order for us to solve it, is not you don't censor it. You have to have the conversation because it's still.
And that's what I'm worried about.
Yes, because what's going to happen? There will be another instance where this boils over because it simmers to the top. Yeah. Right? And it boils over. Yeah. So if you at least having this conversation, there's no boiling over.
No. And you need to allow it at every level,
Yeah.
not just like you were saying. This has become a thing where it's the elites versus the common people. Okay, the elites get to talk. They're saying whatever. We have these big platforms. The common people are getting shut down.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is, again, not American.
No.
This isn't follow the money, follow the power. Who's talking?
Yeah.
They're talking.
Of course. I mean, look no
That's
further than
not a
this.
right or left issue.
No. My last podcast got flagged. I think this is what happened, because we were talking about schools and COVID and all that stuff.
Okay.
It got flagged because I said something that was honest. The Super Bowl, no one was wearing a mask except for like a handful of employees, which is like 5% of the crowd.
Yeah.
They were fat, they were drunk, and they were spitting on each other, and they were the poster boys for the immune compromised and clinically or morbidly clinically obese and whatever. No one's wearing a mask.
Right.
And my child has to wear a mask.
Well, I'll bring it the same thing.
6 hours a day. This is what got us flagged in the first place. But
I can't not.
No.
If I'm adding to that.
No, it just means look. It just means we can't run ads. It doesn't mean that we can't share. Just like the podcast is still up.
Yeah. Okay.
But in order for it to get traction, we have to share it.
Okay, and that's the way the business world works. And why can't you participate in the business world because you're saying something that's true?
Right.
Okay. When I went to the Long Beach State match, everybody in the stands had to wear masks. There was a woman in front of me with a little index card on a popsicle stick. Every single time out would stand up and wave her popsicle stick saying, "Put your mask up, put your mask up." You look over to the Long Beach, like the fun section that's got the bar and the people who are their big donors and supporters, and that's awesome. Hang out down there. Have a great time.
Yeah.
They don't have to wear masks.
Of course not.
Nobody had a popsicle stick in their face.
No. That's a
Just
different
keep
crowd.
the rules the same.
How much does
It's
a Super
not
Bowl ticket
right.
cost?
I wouldn't even know.
You ain't going to see too many broke motherfuckers,
No.
and that's at that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was a cultural exceptionalism, and that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Look at the State of the Union address.
Yeah.
A bunch of 60 and 70 and 80-year-old politicians, all in a room hugging each other, no mask.
No masks. Yeah.
So,
I know.
and I wasn't really trying to go that route,
either.
but no, because we were talking about Rachel Levine, who's this awesome human being that was the political victim of a joke that I myself didn't even think was funny.
Yeah.
But the only thing the Babylon Bee showed us is that we are trying to steer into a closer direction where you can make fun of a politician regardless of who they are. Right? I mean, if you can't make fun of politicians,
they're public officials
anymore. Yeah.
I'm sorry. You are opening. And my dad, I grew up. My father was in politics from the time I was 7 until I ran for governor and state senate. I mean, U.S. Senate. Lost both of those. But he was in politics my entire life from 7 to 27.
Right.
Okay? 20 years I've spent. And that is part of the gig. Like, you better live a clean life. And in this day and age, though, you don't. And look, some people we're not even going to touch the whole Hunter Biden and all. Like, what do you believe out there, Jay?
I think it's just depending on who it is. I mean, the Babylon Bee, the timing might have been bad. And not to mention, it wasn't even, I just thought it missed.
Yeah.
I just thought it missed as a joke.
If they
Like,
would just
I could have nominated Condoleezza Rice for Man of the Year, and everyone would have found that funny. Totally. And it wouldn't have been hate speech.
No.
And it wouldn't have been transphobic.
No.
So it was just a timing thing on something.
But again, super, super sensitive. Let it go and nobody's going to pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
It would have just slid right by. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not offensive.
Right.
Like, it's not, like, to get shut down? What are we talking about?
Do you know what's weird, though, between this and Lia Thomas, right? These are two instances, for the first time, as far back as I can remember. Not a long memory back, but as far as cancel culture got its notice and recognition from the beginning of that, maybe a decade ago till now, maybe even 2008 till now. Okay. It's the first time that I've seen them dead silent. Usually when someone makes a comment like that, or someone of fame or notoriety their social media calls for their job. They call for their heads. They call for this. They call for that. So this is the first time, and Lia Thomas, I guess we're approaching, the swimmer. It was the first time that a whole bunch of people posted on social networks saying that this is ridiculous. They have a problem with it. They have a problem with that. And no one's calling them a bigot. And no one's calling them transphobic. No one's calling them hateful. It's the first time I've seen cancel culture / woke culture and its partnership. Not say a lot about it. They're not shaming the people who feel a certain way. And I'm not talking about us. For us, I'm just like, let's just have a conversation.
Right.
All right. I'm not talking about, I'm not even saying that's right or wrong. No, I'm just saying, saying anyone that's saying that it's not a conversation is not being honest.
Right.
Politically, socially,
it's a huge
personally.
Conversation. And I've had, my phone's been blown. That's the number one issue people have been texting me about this week.
Yeah.
I mean, one, I was a swimmer.
Yeah.
I still love swimming. The world of swimming, all the legendary swimmers that have come through. I was talking about Katie Ledecky and her 500 time, which is 10 seconds faster. I mean, I'm 9 seconds faster than, a couple years ago, but then what Lia Thomas just won the 500 with.
Right.
Okay. And then Wall Street Journal ran a great article or a great op-ed on Emma Wyant, who came in second, like a second and a half behind Lia Thomas. And it was an awesome column because it really celebrated the girl who has done the work. From swimming is a gut-wrenchingly lonely sport. You are staring at that
very
line.
much
These
like tennis.
kids swim so hard. Yeah. And the mind and the body and the nutrition and the presence that goes into that sport, I have so much respect for. And when it comes down to a freaking fingernail, a second, like a tenth of a second, what we're talking about here, these are people's lives and dreams and goals. And you can't allow somebody who has a distinct advantage to come over and crush women's sports. And you can talk about it in track. Whether you create a different competition for transgender in both ways, but distinctly from a male athlete transitioning to female, there is a real discussion to be had there because there is an advantage, and it is not fair to female athletes. It's not. No. What are we going to do about that?
Well, I've always, as far as like what's right and what's wrong on this, I've always been silent because the instances where it's the most conspicuous is when men make a transition to women and playing women's sports. Right. And for me, I've always been not dead silent, but I've always stepped back from talking about it because it's something I think that women need to have a conversation with first. And then, it was almost like the Me Too movement where it's like, what are you men going to do about it? I'm like, I'm not going to do a fucking thing. The last thing I want to do helping women out is to get a room full of men and talk about how we're going to treat trans women and how we're going to treat biological women. So the last thing people want to hear is my fucking mouth. A guy who's probably going to talk to a whole bunch of other guys about it because, Wendy, the only reason why I knew about this, Wendy, I've been holed the fuck up. I hold, after what's been happening with me, I've been living in here. And my wife is like, are you going to come out or what? Do you want me to bring your food, a 5-pound bag of food and leave it at the door? And I wasn't on social media. Yeah. I just did volleyball. I did the volleyball game. I just ingratiated myself in my safe space. Yeah. My safe space was volleyball. Yeah. Coaching volleyball and commentating. Yeah. Thank you, Randy Stokely. I fucking love you. Yeah.
But why should
But the reason why I found out,
people
were messaging me, Jay, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? And I'm like, why do I care? Why do I care? But you get all these messages and then you start looking into it and I'm like, okay, I see where this is a conversation. Yeah. And I want to let you talk, but I want to finish by saying this. Joe Rogan saw this coming a mile away. Joe Rogan, who was accused of transphobic behavior and transgender bigotry, had a conversation a few years ago in his podcast about a transgender athlete, a man that had the operation and was competing in a women's division. Yeah. And the damage that this transgender athlete Because look, combat sports is about damage, right? So no one should really bitch about it. The objective is to inflict as much damage as you can to you until the referee says you had enough.
Yeah.
But the damage was so sensationalized. Like, this person had a broken face, this person had whatever. And Joe Rogan basically said two things. One, he said, that's a fucking dude. And he said that. And I'm careful in the way I word this, because the science says that the whole transformation from woman to man should take in theory, I'll just summarize it for everyone, should take a year and a half.
So from man to woman.
Yes, year and a half.
Okay.
Because the hormones and this and that. So there are so many things that come into play for transgender athletes because of two things. One, this person did not disclose that there used to be a man. And 8 months into it, it was just Fallon Fox is the name.
Okay.
And she was just starching chicks.
Okay.
I mean, and it's so weird because the record was 8-1, and I'm like, wait, a woman actually who was that one woman that won? Right? It was Leslie Smith. It was in the UFC.
Okay.
So that's the one thing. The difference between that and this is there was a lack of disclosure that this person. So technically, when Joe said you're a dude, he wasn't being bigoted. He was saying you didn't make it the complete transformation. You still had the male edge, advantage of performance.
Right.
Yeah. And at the end, and this is where I'm going to Lia Thomas, anyone that's saying that this shouldn't be a conversation is being disingenuous, is being dishonest. I'm not even saying ban Lia Thomas. I'm not even saying ban future athletes who are transgender athletes from competing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
But where's the power structure around this? Who's going to come in and make the rules and address the elephant in the room? Okay? Lia has been allowed to swim in that race.
Yeah.
She showed up. She swims in the race.
Yeah.
They don't cheer for her. She gets up. She gets the medal. She walks off. A lot of the quotes I've read are like, I'm just trying to swim. She's not really talking a lot.
No.
You know what I mean? But where's the power structure? What's the NCAA? What's the NCAA doing to, these, because you know what this is doing to teams. This is blowing teams up. Team chemistry, throw it out the window.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
Or maybe not. Maybe her team is, when you get to know a person. When you get to know a person.
Sure, always.
Yeah.
But I promise you, look at the tweet that got shut down by why are they shutting down tweets? The girl that didn't make the finals because Lia was in the finals.
Yeah.
She tweeted, "This is not right.
Right.
Thank you for supporting me. I will continue to speak out." And Twitter shut her down.
Right.
That girl's got a story. She worked hard. And this, that.
So you're right. If there is unity, why are they shutting down tweets?
Right.
If there's true unity, why are they shutting down people's opinion?
Right.
That's not hateful.
No.
She was only this person that got her tweet shut down. What was her name again? You look it up.
Yeah.
But she, to my understanding, I read the suspended tweet or the screenshot. She was talking about how all of this affected her. She wasn't talking about.
I can read it to you.
She wasn't
right now.
talking about why she disliked someone or this or that. So,
okay, her name is Reka.
Yes.
Georgie.
Yeah.
Georgie.
Yep.
And what is she?
Gyorgi.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I will read you her tweet. It says, "My final spot was stolen by Lia Thomas, who is a biological male. Okay. Until we all refuse to compete, nothing will change. Thanks for all the support, retweets, and follows. I won't stop fighting." And she had her account shut down.
Right.
That's her story.
Right. Yeah.
That's not hate speech. To me. I don't.
Well, I want to. Before I go any further, I want to say there's a huge difference between Lia Thomas and Fallon Fox. Lia Thomas was not someone that did not disclose her whatever.
Absolutely
in fact, on Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, she got her transformation in May of 2019. So it was someone he identifies with being a woman. Right. She wants to become a woman, but at the same time she wants to compete in sports. How do I do this? They walked her through this process. So the reason why I said we have to have a conversation is because she said, I still want to swim. Tell me the steps that I have to go through to make this happen. They told her the steps that she went through to make this happen. She made it happen. And as a result of it, she won. So I'm really, my fairness is trying to have people understand that how do I say it? Don't hate the prom queen. Don't hate the person they voted prom queen. Hate the people who voted.
And that's why I'm saying, where's the leadership? Where's the power structure coming in when it's obvious there is a conversation to be had here?
Yeah.
And you cannot shut down people who want to have that conversation, especially when it's the girl who's put in the work to make the final. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's a real sports story. You don't shut that down.
And it's weird because I always look at how history. Remember we were talking about how history, with presidents, history is always going to be more kinder to whatever. Like Malcolm X, right? Malcolm X is like, if a cop takes a shot at me, I'm going to get a gun and I'm going to shoot back, right? That's not something you say at that time. Muhammad Ali, right? Didn't decline to be drafted to serve in Vietnam or to serve in the military, which pretty much meant you're going to Nam. He basically said, these Viet Cong never call me the N-word, this and that. I ain't got no problem with someone on the other side of the world. And back then, if you were called to join, it was your patriotic duty. So you were like this anti-American, you were this communist person or this or that. So, but now you look at history, right? And history has been very, very, very kind. Bruce Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner, right? We all thought Bruce Jenner was just something was psychologically wrong. And we're probably still right about that. But at the same time, history has been more kind to Bruce and Caitlyn Jenner. So I'm very, very interested to see what history says about this person. And the only reason why in this podcast, I want to make sure I highlight this person, because I want to remind everybody that she didn't really do anything wrong.
Agreed.
She identifies as being a woman. She got the proper procedure. She waited. Again, the science says 1.5 years and this and that. So, and it's all tricky because you have to be on certain medications.
Right.
As far as the hormonal and this and that.
And that's not...
But at the same time, those medications are also banned.
Right.
Are banned substances by the NCAA. So that's a whole nother subject. Can you see why this has to be a conversation?
Yes.
But I wanted to let everybody know, as far as this person goes, and I'm not trying to white knight this person because I'm scared of getting our podcast taken down. I just want to tell everyone to take it the fuck easy on this girl. Take it easy on Lia, because she is... The problem is, our problem is, and the conversation is not her. The problem is,
that
again,
there's not a conversation.
If you became prom queen, all right, and I didn't think you deserved to be prom queen, it is in our human nature to be mad at you, Wendy.
Right.
This bitch got prom queen. Look at her wearing that crown. I can't fucking stand her. They hate. It isn't our right. It is in our instinctive animal human nature to hate the player, and not the game. So, I'm not saying that I'm picking her side either. I'm just saying that, like I said in the beginning, I'm saying the sky's blue and the water's wet doesn't mean I'm on that person's side. I'm just saying.
But if we don't get a hold of this conversation, what it's going to do to women's sports is it's not okay. When you look at the statistics on runners and swimmers, in particular, the two I've looked at, and how much of an advantage a male has over a female. I mean, the women who are running the Olympics, there are high school boys who can run as fast as them.
Right.
That's not okay. You cannot keep that on. That is not the same playing field.
I think I'm glad I'm referring to a person who is a woman.
Yeah.
And again, I've talked to dozens of women, and you notice my opinion has been completely not picking the man's side or the woman's side or anyone's side, but you are totally allowed to, because again, the highlight, the transformation. Okay. More so from man to woman instead of woman to man, right? Because you're not going to hear a whole bunch of dudes complain that a woman who identifies with a man is playing their sport.
Right, because there's not a distinct biological advantage to going from female to male. But why? And this is, to me, this is going to sound like a very feminist argument to make.
Right.
Why should women have to give up a piece of that pie, of their sports, real estate. Why should they have to give up a piece of the pie?
I don't know.
Create something in the middle. I don't know what, or have the conversation. That's the idea that's been floated. I've read it, but off the top of my head, I don't know what else you do. But you shouldn't, women should not have to give up a piece of the pie because they work just as hard. They just aren't biologically the same. Our muscles are different. Our strength levels are different. We have different gifts. Doesn't make us less.
Right. And that's why if they decide to have this conversation, which I'm praying, I pray, Wendy, that if isn't if, it's if, that if is when. Yeah. When they have this conversation. Yeah. Let's get everybody in a room, but let's get as many fucking women. Right. Let's get as many women in the room as we can, because there's two things going on. One, the women are the ones voicing their objectivity to this, and again, this shouldn't be a cancelable conversation, because you're talking about talking about what, more than half the population's women, right?
Right.
So you're talking about the opinion, and I'm not saying every single woman agrees with this, but I will say this: every single woman that I met that's an athlete, that's an athlete. All right.
Yeah.
Now, all of my friends, my wife is very, very pro. She's I'll just say liberal or whatever, and she's pro everything. She's cool with anything. But I got to tell you, even the ones who are for it are very, very dead quiet when this person won't finish first place.
Yeah,
it is dead silent. It is dead silent, and I hate that, because I don't want the people who are completely on the other side of the argument to be like, oh, you have nothing you want to say about this?
Right.
And then, because their argument's going to be like, there's nothing to be said.
The silence for her when she wins, that's a psychological impact on her. She's carrying a load right now.
Yeah, she is.
Right? I mean,
I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her because
at the same time, I want to say this isn't fair. For female athletes, this is not fair.
No.
So
but she didn't. The crazy thing is, she didn't. And I say this very carefully. She didn't ask for any of this. You know, she made a choice.
To be true to herself.
No, but she made a choice on something in her psyche that's not a choice. All right. I want to talk about nature versus nurture, just so I'm clear what I'm talking about. All right.
Yeah.
If I identify with being gay.
Yeah.
Right. That means I can't help to whom or what I'm attracted to. Right.
Right.
But if I marry someone that's gay, that's a choice. People think you don't have any choice. You can choose whichever choice is more or less difficult, because the actual action is a choice. Getting the surgery is a choice. Right. Identifying with being a woman is not a choice. That's just something that's involuntary. Right? So that's the nature versus nurture argument. And I guess my challenge to people is, if someone decides to make that choice, and they have to go through enough bullshit to live with that choice, right?
It's difficult.
Let's fucking take it easy on them a little bit. But let's have them in the room too. And let's have women in the room.
Everybody,
let's have transgender female athletes, because we're talking within our wheelhouse, athletes. We talked about the general, but that was more about Babylon B than the general. Right. But we're talking about something in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Right. We're sports, and we're health and wellness.
Yeah.
But let's have as many transgender female athletes in the room. Let's have as many biological women in the room, and let's all get together and have a conversation. Stop calling this person Team Turf. Stop saying that person's still a dude, and don't shut it down. Don't shut it down. We got to be able to talk. We got to be tough. This is a time in our human existence where we got to be tough. We have to have the sensitivity to have the empathy and understand, but at the same time have the thick skin.
Amen.
To have the uncomfortable conversation.
Amen.
It's because it sounds like they're opposite things, but maybe they are.
They are, but if they go hand in hand, you make a lot of progress. If you can understand someone else's perspective and have the skin thick enough to listen, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to include somebody else's story in your existence. That's how we make progress.
Yep.
Your perspective is not the only perspective. And we've gotten so far down that rabbit hole where people have their perspective and they're so dug in that they won't even listen. And they put you, probably most of the time, they're putting whoever they disagree with, they're putting them in much dimmer light and further down
Right.
some hysterical rabbit hole because they haven't listened. Right?
They don't listen.
Yeah.
Again,
I
Chapelle
love
said
these
that again.
conversations.
Chapelle's like, you aren't listening
True.
to what I'm saying. You know that
that
anyone has a
was-
problem with him only shows you don't listen.
Right. And if you listen to 10 seconds or 30 seconds of a clip, you're not getting the whole story.
No.
So to everyone who's scrolling, read an entire article, watch an entire documentary, watch an entire Dave Chappelle comedy show, watch the whole thing before you say a word.
And you're not even a Dave Chappelle person. You had to
You know me.
You had
Jay,
to
I have to
you had to recalibrate.
and I do okay. I appreciate comedy, but I don't talk like that.
No,
That's
but
just not me.
But even
But-
you admit that was a masterpiece.
He is a genius.
Yeah, that was a masterpiece.
Genius storyteller. And thank God for comedy because it's saving the world.
Do you know what's crazy? Because we could definitely talk about comedy, but what's crazy is that piece. We're called. What was it called? Not The Closer. It was The Closer.
I think so. Or was that the... Yeah. it
Yeah,
was The
Sticks
Closer.
and Stones. Then
Yes,
there was The Closer.
The Closer.
The Closer clearly came from a highly personal place.
Absolutely.
Where a lot of his other comedy skits, he sees hot button issues and he talks and he makes jokes. But this one was him angry as fuck at a particular group of people for what they did to his friend.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't like Dave Chappelle, that they can't sit and stomach a whole thing. If you want to scroll and skip through something, get to a portion where he's talking about Daphne. Daphne is a transgender female who he met, was impressed with, and actually had her open up comedically, and she was terrible.
San Francisco.
And he said she was terrible.
Right.
But when he came on next to repair it, she sat in the front seat, and the communication they had made it a great special. And what happened was she got so much heat from the transgender community for being friends with Dave Chappelle because she defended him on Twitter. Mm-hmm. They raked her through the coals. And you know, for Dave Chappelle to actually say Twitter's not a real place, it's like an overwhelming contradiction because he doesn't know if this was the result of this. This woman killed herself.
Yeah.
You know, she jumped.
She read all of the...
She jumped.
It's terrible. It's unimaginable, and it's the pressure out there. If you choose to read the haters' comments, like who's called to withstand that? Like, I always tell people, live your life. If there's something that's bothering you, by all means, do not go follow it. Don't follow your ex-boyfriend.
No.
Don't follow do you. Live your life.
Yeah.
Don't read the haters' comments.
Wow,
because they
dude.
are out there.
Dude, and they prey
Yes.
on the people who respond back.
Totally.
On
But
the people
at
who,
the same
on
time,
the-
your heart...
You don't feed the troll.
No.
Yeah. Well, there are
but
people...
we're human.
We are
human.
But we're different humans. I'll give you an example of someone who's down with, like Dana White, UFC president.
Yes.
That man lives on Twitter and will respond to everybody, and he says, "Come on, motherfuckers."
Well, we all have a
you know why?
different-
Because
yeah.
it keeps this man's blood
Yeah,
pumping.
yeah.
And as a millionaire, soon to be billionaire, he has all the time in the world
Yeah.
to
answer.
Yeah.
But he's grounded in who he is. I'll tell
Yeah.
you have to know who you are.
Man, look at the balls on that guy.
I know, but I respect that, man. I'm like, if you know who you are and you know your intention's good, forget
But
about
the
it.
same thing where a conversations he's indulging in and the vitriol that he gets is enough to make somebody else.
Yeah.
Look, she's transgender and she was getting blowback from a people who kept yelling at Dave Chappelle saying she's one of us, not one of you. But then again, that's how you treat one of yours. Yeah. And I'm not saying that was the reason she killed herself. Because that's not what Dave Chappelle's saying.
Right. And that's the problem.
But a week and a half later, it's so
tragic.
So when he did The Closer,
Yeah.
I thought it was really one of the first ones where it came from. It all comes from a personal place.
No, but
this one was like, I am going to breathe fire on all of you, and at the end, hopefully that there's something left in the ashes and remain we can repair.
Yeah.
In fact, at the end of that, he says, I'm not going to tell a gay or transgender joke again until we can all laugh together.
Yeah.
And that's something else a lot of people don't know that didn't see it. But I like that because I don't want my friends to say I don't recognize color. I want people to see people's color and
Right.
celebrate it, and I want people to see
Amen.
colors and acknowledge that you're different, and I don't love you in spite of your differences. I
Right.
love you because of your differences.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
just like you said in the transgender argument or the Me Too argument, you said I was going to sit back and listen to who was first and foremost in that conversation. As a white person, I feel the same way in the discussion about race.
Yeah.
I haven't lived that life. I will never live that life.
Right.
That doesn't make me a bad person. It does make me want to sit back and listen.
Yes, but
That's
make
it.
sure we take care of anyone who we think is vulnerable. And this is where I think woke culture and
Absolutely.
cancel culture have gotten it right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to defend them a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily praise, but whatever. But we get to a society. Greg Faulkner, you know Greg Faulkner?
Yeah, absolutely.
We sing karaoke together, right?
I've seen it.
And they look at that. They're like, who are those two? And they point at me and say, that is the whitest black guy I've ever met. And they point at Greg and say, that is the blackest white guy I've ever met. And we laugh together because we have gotten to a point where we understand, we empathize, we see who's vulnerable, we see who we can talk to, and we see it's okay. And we have this satire where it is parody, it is ridicule. But at the same time, we got to a place where we can all laugh together.
Correct.
And I only wish everybody else that same level of happiness.
I agree.
You know, that
I
same
agree.
level of happiness.
And does that come with maturity? Does it come with self-awareness?
Right.
Does it come with security and safety?
Right.
When people have to fear for their lives, when people don't feel safe, you're never going to have that place where you can have an elevated conversation.
But at the same time, if you sacrifice your freedom for safety, you're gonna wind up with neither.
Right. Amen.
What is it? James Madison, right? I think he said that. He who sacrifices
that is-
freedom for safety deserves neither, or something like that.
Yeah.
The guy who owned slaves or whatever,
you need to. Have we just arrived at a place where we're secure enough in our lives that we can have these conversations? And if someone says something, you can go, okay, that's your.
It is what it is. Yeah.
You're not affecting my livelihood, my security in life. I have my community. I have people who support me, and I know that, and I know who I am. I'm okay.
Here's another question.
But how do you get there?
Here's another question, because we ran right past it, but I want to hit the car in reverse.
Okay.
Has this cancel culture and call out culture become the new bully? I mean, considering what happened with Daphne,
Yeah.
right? This whole you're one of us and this and that, you should be ashamed, you're defending this guy. Has that become the new bully? Because there's more of them and they're fighting with a set of rules that seem to only back them. They can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Right. And
if
no
you
one gets
disagree-
canceled.
Right.
Right.
But
And
then
if you so much as disagree,
if you disagree,
not even say something hateful back.
No, you just disagree,
Yeah.
and they cancel you.
Yeah. Look, we both acknowledge this podcast might not even make it to anyone listening.
Right?
It's just not. And everyone if it makes it, a lot of people are going to just shake their head because they're like, dude, they're just having a conversation. What's the problem? You know? So, but in many ways, hasn't the cancel culture become the new bully?
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Has that not happened to Kevin Hart? Right?
Yep.
10 years ago, he made some homophobic references, and then 11 years later, well, you were going to host the Oscars, but this happened 11 years ago. So,
Right.
you know.
Who wants to be held accountable? I mean, we're works in progress always.
Right.
Right? Now, but by all means, if you say something, you're accountable. You need to come out and apologize. But you can't look all the way back through someone's life all the time and call out the one that we've all done something wrong. We've all done something that we don't want to come out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all human. So don't call out my black eye. Just go take care of your own,
Right.
right?
Well, it's not just that. It's about acknowledging that everybody, even the ones with differences of opinion that are not yours, is for banning hate speech.
Yeah,
We are
absolutely.
I just think it's a slippery slope that if someone sees something another way, to take that and translate it to that person saying something hateful.
Right.
And
who defines that?
No, but resent and hate are two different things. That tweet, that person that got banned from Twitter, that didn't come from hating Lia Thomas. That came from a personal resentment that their accomplishments got cut short by someone else. And I think people can disagree with that opinion, but what they shouldn't do is cancel it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was nothing about that tweet that shouldn't be out there.
No. Resentment.
It's part
but resentment is not hatred.
No, it's part of the conversation, and it's going to elevate that conversation so that something gets done about it.
Yeah, because resentment is a human thing. Remember, I just talked about the prom queen thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's resentment.
Yep.
That's not hating.
Yep.
Sometimes, resentment can lead to hatred, and that's why those people. But that's why the cancel culture came along. Right. If resentment is the pathway or the gateway to hatred that might inspire someone to do violence. January 6th, right? They resented Trump lost. They hate liberals for it because they got to riot last year. If we don't take our country back, it's we're not going to have a country, right? So there is I do understand someone trying to protect us from ourselves, but you can't let hatred take you by surprise. Right? Okay. If you see the resentment, you could at least have a conversation where it's not hate.
Absolutely.
Hate, but without the conversation, and these random acts of violence are going to happen anyway. But the difference is you're not going to see them coming. At least with the conversation, you could see them coming.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and the question is too, which conversations are we being allowed to see? Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of conversations that are going on out there that are not finding their way into the mainstream media.
Right.
And so even when you tell the story of January 6th, and you can look back on my Facebook, I was devastated and floored on January
terrified.
6th. I was sickened to my core, and I put it on a video, and I don't do that.
Because there's no news station that can make that look like just tourists, right?
Right? No.
There's no...
But afterwards, you started hearing all these stories like, oh, they didn't show this, and this was Antifa, and this, like...
Right.
And then you end up as an American going, who do I believe, and where do I go for real news? When I don't trust anybody anymore.
Well, with the media, someone has to fall on the sword.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anyone in that building was perfectly innocent, but there were people that... I'm sure there were a bunch of people there, and... might sound controversial, but fuck it. There were a whole bunch of people there that were protesting peacefully.
Yes.
Ignorantly, but peacefully. But that's our look.
But that's our
That's
country.
the United States of America.
Yes.
Ignorance is not only bliss, it's constitutional.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So
you don't have to study before you vote.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
You can walk up and you can push whatever buttons you want. It
no,
doesn't
but
mean you ever looked at the ballot issue. If you go vote, you have no idea.
No, but you got to at least accept evolution, right? Because who doesn't believe that men come from monkeys after the last two presidents? After the last two guys, that's just my personal opinion. After the last two guys who got elected president, never mind the people who survived the primary to run for president, man comes from monkeys. All right? So this is the most important. This is the underlying thing. And we've had this conversation at lunch. There are two kinds of people. Well, I won't limit it to the false dichotomy, but there are at least two kinds of people. There are people where you look at how I carry myself and you're like, I don't get it. Right? And then there's the second person is, I don't get it. All right? So the one person that says, I don't get it, I don't understand, I don't want to understand, I just want to move on with my life, bye.
Okay.
The second person is, I don't get it, I want to understand.
Tell me more.
I want to get it.
Yeah.
I want to take a shot at this before I go this way, through this door, through that door, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why we should not censor, the reason why we should engage. Oh my God, I could have just chopped the whole damn podcast off and just limited it to where we are right now.
I love where you're going. Go.
But I mean, damn it. It took, an hour 29 to get here. The reason why we should not censor, the reason why we should not engage is for those handful of people who say, I don't get it, but want to get it. They're about to walk through that door, but they want to walk through this door. And as soon as people can understand that someone says, I don't understand, is not just one way to say it, then we can come together as a people.
Amen.
We can come together as a nation.
Those are your and my people. You can be as different from me I do not judge it. I want to understand. I want to hear the story. I want to know why you are who you are, what you think about. That is, you just cannot be so ignorant. Like, those are the stories we're telling, the stories we get on and talk about. We want to know more. How can you shut that down?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you what, if this gets shut down, I'm done. I'm done with YouTube and I'm done with Facebook, and I'll make a decision on how I want to disseminate information, because the whole reason I'm even doing a podcast, I do use sports and I do use entertainment and health and wellness and current events as a launching point to provoke questions like this. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers. No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if we constantly pose the question and pose it again and pose it again, I'm hoping, I'm praying that we can find a way to see we can answer some of these questions together. Yeah. And that's all this podcast is about. I mean, it started as a volleyball podcast, so I could talk shit with my friends and all that stuff. But
that's what I love about you, like bringing these two topics together. Mm-hmm. Because it's real communities of people who have I can sit and talk volleyball all day long. I absolutely love it. Yeah. But real communities of people who live together that want to understand each other better. And that's what current events are. That's how we're living together in community. Yeah,
because you told me you can't get rid of that.
No, I cannot. Keep trying.
That's one of my 4 pillars. And I'm like, and do you remember me like a month ago when this shit happened with, you were done. I get back from Mammoth, your account's been disabled. You violated community guidelines. And very much like an ex-girlfriend. Like when you ask your ex-girlfriend, like, what did I do? And she's like, you know what you did. You figure it out. That's how I felt. Yeah. I felt like I was in a house with a girl who was mad at me. And I'm just like, why? Yeah. Oh shit. Man, I gotta backtrack something else. Clean it up. Yeah. And the sad thing is, I started questioning myself. Have I gone that far off the rails? Yeah. Where when someone says I violated community guidelines, have I talked so much shit that I have no idea of knowing what they're talking about? And that's what made me want to quit. What made me want to quit was that if I've gone that far, this way and this way and this way and this way, that I could have done anything that they could have done me for. I was at this point where I was like, I surrender. I don't want any fucking trouble, dude. I don't want any trouble. You know, but 2 things helped me. One, you. I really have support from people, and again, Facebook community, especially my volleyball people who shared Evan Corey's podcast, Theo Brunner. YouTube came through savage for me because I can't run ads. That wasn't an ad. Yeah. There was an ad, and then it wasn't. So, thank you for that. You know, because I'm speaking for a bunch of people like Daphne. I'm speaking for a bunch of people who want something to say, but they're scared of something to say. And when everyone gangs up on them with this tribalism and this gang mentality, they do feel they're alone. Yeah. And then that same culture is like, oh, look, now he wants to play the victim, and you just want to kill yourself. You know?
Only the only thing I ever want to bring to any of these conversations is for people to feel more loved, more understood, and more respected. Yeah. That's it. When you let people tell their stories and you're coming from that intention, it doesn't go wrong. It doesn't go wrong. And we teach the next generation how to listen and get a little thicker skin and understand that we're not all the same, but that we can all live together. And that is not out there in the mainstream media right now. It's gut-wrenching.
I want to tell you a story because it's related to this. I had a dream maybe 3 years ago, 2018, and the only reason why I'm talking about it is because dreams you just forget. And maybe there's a deja vu moment that reminds you and brings it up. You know how much but I had a dream. I had a dream that I was in a New York train station, right? And there was a big bathtub in the middle of the train station, and there was a baby. Baby's maybe like 1.5 years old, and the baby's crawling, and then it somehow climbs to the top of the bathtub and just plops in. And I don't know if the bathtub has water. I don't know if the bathtub, is deep. I don't know if the kid just rolled in and is just chilling. So I'm looking around and no one else sees this shit. And I run like hell. And I run to this tub. and I see this kid, this baby drowning in a bathtub, and like the bubbles coming out, and the baby looked at me like with his eyes like, it's okay. Like, no one cares. I'll just fucking lay here. Like, I'll just... Like... Like, I'll just lay here because nobody cares. And I'll just die by myself. And it's cool. And I fucking yanked this kid up. And I fucking held this kid like no one's ever been fucking held before. And every now and then when I see my 5-year-old, I'm like, oh my God, this kid's a pain in the fucking ass. I wish he'd just eat and do what I say. And then I give her, I hug her and you know, and I tell her I love her and I guess what I'm trying to say is that the reason why we have these conversations is not to battle the man, to be anti-establishment, to have all these things. We have these conversations because all of us have a friend that thinks no one cares, right? That think no one loves them. That thinks that if they drown, no one will comfort them, and that's okay. I'll just fucking lay here and die. I give up. I surrender. I give up.
Nobody should ever get to that place.
And I didn't see that coming, and I'm sorry.
You're telling a huge human story right now, and the fact that that's in you, and the way that you put your words out in the world, that's your why. That's what I mean. You make people feel understood, and you listen. And that is so missing out there right now. And we've all been judged at some point. We've all walked in and felt the judgment coming from someone, and they don't know our lives. But to sit and listen and really listen and not judge before you listen.
Yeah.
Huge.
But
absolute game changer.
And I guess I told this story for 2 reasons. One, if you have a friend, regardless if you think they're doing okay or not, just call them, send them a text, say, hey, I love you. This is random.
Oh, I have a few.
I love you. I miss you. You're my thoughts and prayers. And that's the first reason.
You do that for me.
And the second reason is the reason why I keep coming back full circle with episodes and with these conversations exclusively with you. I've been pretty lucky to have with 1 or 2 other people, and I thought Ashley Clark and I hit on some of those things too. Awesome. But I have these conversations because I didn't think I'd have a platform. I'd be using my platform for this or using my platform for this. I'm saying this because there are people out there that have something they want to say and they don't have a voice. And I'm not even trying to say I'm their voice. I'm just trying to say just fucking listen. Yeah. Have some empathy. Have some sympathy. We on this very episode, Lia Thomas, this person who there's a great resentment that she's out there starching chicks on the swimming thing. Right. In the very same breath, we're saying, understand this person. Empathize with this person. Right. See where they're coming from, where they, in their heart of hearts and in their mind, they think they're doing everything right to get to where they got to go. And the result turned out to be so astoundingly breathtaking and so skewed that it made everybody so uncomfortable and so resentful. And again, that resentment, if you're not a good human being, or if you're not in a surrounding where empathy can bring it back, you become hateful. Yeah. And then hate crime happens. Right. And then people start getting beat up and all that stuff and this and that. And this is why cancel culture has become the new bully. Yeah. Because it
doesn't allow you to see the shades of gray and the human story in the middle.
Well, they put everybody in the same category.
Right.
Hate speech. I have a question. That's hate speech. I disagree with that. That's hate speech. Yeah. They put you in the same category with this group of people whose hatred and just
Yeah.
bigotry and racism and phobia runs
Right.
so deep that you wish they'd all. God damn! Can they come? Can
Yeah.
they come back, or should we just put them all on a fucking island?
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
And to me, everyone can come back from that.
I know.
You know, I'm a prisoner. Look, I'm a prisoner of the moment, and there's some people where I'm like, if someone did that to my family, this or that,
Yeah.
I'll whoop your ass. You know, but you know, because we as humans become prisoner of the moment because resentment comes from being a prisoner of the moment based on what you learn over and over and over again. And I didn't give you a chance to speak, and I'm really sorry, but I was trying to make a bigger point that I thought I missed, but I think I'm gonna just shut up because I think I hit it because I feel like I'm trying to bring back something that was already.
You know, the hard thing is that you pull me into the next generation, and I do have a story in my life. Like, you know, I don't talk about my kids a lot, but I have a 14-year-old that he's definitely been bullied. He's definitely been the kid that I know what it feels like to be the kid, to be the mom of a kid who struggles, who has an IEP. That he's a beautiful human. He surfs, he skates. He's the kindest kid you've ever come across. He's finally just coming out of his shell, and he's 14. And I know what it's like to be the mom of an athlete that's the star in the gym. And you get treated differently. You get talked to differently. The kids get talked to differently. And it's not fair because every single one of them is so special and they have their own story. And if we don't teach these kids younger to understand that feeling that everyone needs to be, everyone just needs one or two people. I always say, like, I don't care to be the most popular person in the world, but I want to know I've got that circle that's got my back. And I want my kid to have that. And I don't mean just the star. I mean the kids who are struggling, the kids who are coming through something at home that it's so difficult. And when you got me with that story, Jay, because Matthew, I pulled him out of the pool when he was 2. He almost drowned. So when you say those eyes are looking up at you, I've seen that firsthand. And to change, he was almost gone. And now he's 14 and he's 6'6". And he struggles, and he is the most beautiful human to watch come through and battle. But I don't want him to battle so bad that he ends up in a place that's dark, you know? So I worry about this stuff firsthand, and then I want to walk the walk. And not just for my own kids, but for the whole world. Because I've felt this since I was born. I've always seen the one that's struggling. I've never been the popular kid. My kids say, I want to be popular. You don't want to be popular.
No, you don't.
You want to know yourself. And you want to be the one who can provide the support. And that's what you do by listening and being as sensitive as you are. It makes a huge difference. And one person at a time. Forget the masses. Forget the cancel. Like if you go, people say, I know Jay, I see him at Starbucks. You listen to people, not just on a podcast. You listen to them when they walk up to you. You make me feel great when I walk up. And it makes a difference. It does. So I love what you're doing. I want to do I'm doing the same thing, but we have different voices, and that's the beautiful thing. This
might be your episode. I mean, shit. At least you have a platform.
Well, I was gonna say this is going up on my platform.
Well, it's good,
and it's growing.
Let's do a dual thing.
Yeah.
Not for this one.
I would love.
This is the one kind of episode where I'm not able to get the viewership, and you are.
Yeah.
So you have to carry the water on this one. You have to carry the water on this one.
I'll
still have it on mine because it's an actual episode.
Yeah.
Any
podcast that I go on, I put up on my
there
website.
It is. Yeah.
So.
Doing my website Friday. I want to get with your guys. I want to email them.
They're awesome.
But I want to email your guys after I talk to this person because my people from iHeart, I think they're trying to set up where I could do my website for free.
Okay.
But as far as promoting it and marketing it and this and that,
they're awesome.
Yeah. For the people listening to the podcast, I'm redoing my website so I can get my viewership this way. And the only reason why I'm even continuing is because I've done promoting. Like, I've ran ads for my podcast, and people are like, "Oh, you have to pay money to get people to listen to you." I'm like, "No, I got to pay money so it's on someone's wall so they can click." Right? Kim Kardashian gets that for free. Right. And the only reason why I do that every now and then, I don't do it like Theo didn't need it. Right. Lori, a U.S. national team. She doesn't need it. And Savvy, has a great following. She didn't need it. But for people who I want, who have a smaller voice or I have a bigger voice, I do pay money to run ads. But I will defend myself by saying this. When you look at the analytics, there is a stat that makes me blow out the competition. any podcast behind me. That stat is called through plays. All right. So through plays, ladies and gentlemen, are people who actually make an active decision to click the very first second and listen to it all the way to the end. And a good podcast through plays are 23%. My average through plays are 31%. I'm 8 points higher. I'm 8 points higher than the average good podcast. So that shows me running ads do work.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if it's on your wall, that's involuntary, right? You didn't ask for that shit. Why do I care about this guy? But something I can't do, in conclusion, and I'll shut up about this, but something I can't do is make someone sit there for 2 hours and 20 minutes and listen to the whole thing.
Right.
So running ads doesn't make someone listen to
see.
the whole damn thing. Yeah. So that's how I knew it had legs. The podcast had legs. Yeah. And that's why. And a long form.
Yeah.
These aren't 20-minute pops where
Right.
I'm looking for clicks. This is someone that 8% of people more are going to listen to this, and I'm humbled and I'm honored and I'm cocky and I'm all those things that you like and don't like.
But you've also put in the consistent work. Yeah. You are consistently on this track.
If they had any idea.
I know. But your attention to detail, your ability to learn all of this.
Yeah. What
you have helped me create, eternally grateful.
Big up to anyone doing a podcast like this too, like Sandcast. In my mind, I always think it's easier for them because like Triborn has star power and this and that, and I think there's a lot part of me that doubles down and thinks they're right. Does that mean they're not working hard on it? No, of course they're working hard. John Mayer is the one that inspired me to have a podcast. Well, John Mayer's Coach Your Brains Out.
Yeah,
that's a podcast. Yeah. That's a savage podcast.
I agree.
And the whole criteria you have to, you're here to learn, or we're here to teach. That's their genre. Sorry.
Right. No, and I would say like my genre is learning through stories, through people's stories.
Dude.
And I
boy,
think
do we have stories to tell.
Right.
Huh?
And we make an emotional connection and we can learn. Yeah. And I learned that through my kids. My kids who, even through Matthew, like when you attach an emotion and a story to something, you remember it.
Right. Yep. That's probably where your resentment comes from, where people are silencing free speech, right? Like if they put you to a point where on your business and on a personal note, where there's only one story to tell out there and only that, what the hell's going to make you different from everybody else? Because no one else can get their story out there.
Everyone's story's got a different angle, and it's going to hit with somebody.
Boy, did I have one to tell, huh?
Heck
Do you remember that conversation we had?
It's up on my website, Jay. It's all Monday. Come sign up for a subscription, and you will hear the backstory. Now, I have podcasts, I have my Optimist Journal, and all these podcasts that are free. But there are some interviews on the other side of this, yours being one of them, that are super powerful that people can learn from. And there's got to be a way to market this stuff. People have to make a living. I have to make a living. I have given my entire life. I wrote 200 blogs and they're all out there for free. And I will keep giving free stuff away. But you know what? We all got to live. I got a story to tell. I'm here to help people. I know how to coach people. I am a great writer. And I can finally say that confidently, look you in the eye. I am not a fraud. I am not a fake. I am not here for myself. I am not ego-driven. And I am ready to push this out and help younger athletes.
And oddly enough, you're not competition either.
No. And I don't believe in that anymore. I am an abundance mindset, rising tide. Everybody gets better together. That's it.
I like that. Yeah.
There's no competition.
I think it's the same thing with comedians and podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan is not competition to Mark Maron. They're just, or Joey Diaz, who's he doesn't, his viewership is only for the people who can recalibrate. We had that conversation. You do not, Joey Diaz is not for you. Not for Wendy Jones. Nope. Right. Not for Wendy Jones.
You know me.
Facebook is an angry ex-girlfriend. Okay, I did that.
Yeah, we did that.
No, but some of the stories, like my podcast getting flagged for this or whatever, like YouTube actually said, Evan Corey, I wasn't able to run ads because Evan Corey got flagged for extreme material.
When's volleyball become extreme material?
I don't know, but I want you to picture this.
And
Wendy, if a cop pulls you over, and you have no idea where you're being stopped, right?
Right.
And the cop comes up to you is like, license and registration. Okay, you are aware you have a midget in the back seat that's not wearing his seatbelt. what would you do? You would look behind you. You'd look at the cop and you would say, what fucking midget? What fucking midget? What? That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Anyone want to know how I feel? That's how I feel.
What
the hell
I don't know.
can come out of Evan Corey's mouth? Because look, he's got a. I behave myself when I interview people like Evan Corey. I behave myself because he got little girls following him. He got kids and all that stuff. So
he's a good role model.
He really is. He's a good role model because he's the epitome of hard work.
Absolutely.
He's also the epitome of when shit goes wrong. What are you going to do about it? If you listen, I don't know if you listened to any part of that podcast,
but the Seaside Story is freaking amazing.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, you didn't qualify for Atlanta for the main draw. What are you going to do about it? I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to get on this plane. Yeah. I'm going to fly from Atlanta to Seattle and I'm going to play in that tournament and I'm going to win it because that tournament gives me an automatic bid.
Heck yeah.
For the Chicago Open.
I love that stuff. He's one of my featured athletes. Come on my website.
Go get her.
You'll see it.
Go get her, man.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing kid.
And we got him on the way up.
Yeah.
We got him on the way up.
Because Sean Ladig said, you guys got to come to New Orleans. And we did. And I met.
Unlike some people, I hope the success doesn't change him. I hope. I'll use Eric Baranek. His success did not change him.
No.
He's still that great human being.
Yeah.
I think Savvy will be like that.
Yeah.
I don't know about Tony. I think it's going to change her.
No, I love that
I'm messing
kid.
with her. Look, I don't care if Tony changes or stays the same.
Well, we all change.
The journey she took to get to where she is, she can act however the F she wants to act.
That kid's gonna stay humble.
Yeah.
She can stay humble.
She actually had me say F instead of fuck because I'm thinking about her right now.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so.
There's some good ones out there, man.
Did you hear the story about top drawer, bottom drawer?
I don't think so.
Right. Have social call-outs become bullying? And why do still people believe cancel culture is not a real thing? I'm not going to answer that it is a real thing.
Beat that one to death.
Yeah.
And it is a real thing.
Oh, well, I will say this, and I wrote this down. When people become hammers, they're incapable of looking for anything else except nails. Yeah. So when you just do this at everybody, you become a hammer.
Yeah.
And you after a while you don't start to recognize anything else other than what you think is a nail.
Well, and the truth is, why are they a hammer? That's what you have to turn the lens back and go, why am I a hammer?
They're hammers because
usually
there were these inciting incidents that inspired us to be safe, that took away our freedoms away. Yeah. Now, we can be big conspiracy theorists of the agenda that took away our freedoms. Maybe there was an agenda in the first place, and what happened January 6th and all these things became, you know what I'm saying? Became an inciting incident to say, "See, I told you so," as a rationalization. But hammers were created by people who want control.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jay, I've been a rule follower my whole life. Okay. I am now convinced. I'm also a very critical thinker. I like to dig into stuff, but I am a rule follower by nature. I now believe that leadership is not always about, like, in this current culture where we are, you have to deviate from the norm. You have to look at the rules that are being told that you follow these rules. No. Right. Sometimes you have to question it at this point. Yeah. There's too much out there that you go, it doesn't feel right in my soul. It doesn't feel right for my kid's face to be covered and say, oh my God. Like, they took them off. But like, there are things that when it doesn't feel right in your gut and you know you're a good person and you're like, you gotta question it sometimes. And we've gotten to that. You gotta have a conversation. You've got to do that. And you can't be shut down for that.
You gotta have a conversation. Yep.
Good people.
Yeah.
I don't mean to beat that to death, but the intention is there. It's not to force anybody to be like me or to create something that's
we as human beings have to constantly evolve. Okay. Right. We've come from an American culture that thought that a black person wasn't a person. To a black person's 3/5 of a person, right? To black people get to vote. It's like, oh damn, what next? Women get to vote too. It's like, okay, wait a minute, or whichever came first. I don't know about the chicken or the egg on that one. dude, gay people want to get married. What comes next? This one woman just wants to become a woman and play in a woman's sport. So,
but can you stay present in your own body, know who you are, and listen to someone else? That's all it comes down to. It can't be, we need to go back to the 50s, or where are we going? I mean, anytime you know that, if you're looking too far back or too far forward, you've lost the argument. Stay present.
But what if they're not nails, they're not people? Yeah. That's what makes it so easy to be a hammer, because you're not thinking about nailing a person. You're thinking about nailing a nail, not knowing that you're nailing a person.
Yeah.
I grew up, and I guess we can finish with this. I grew up, I guess, anti-gay, right? I grew up in a deeply religious, and not we have good news, Christ is coming religion. I grew up in a fire and brimstone. If you don't know you don't know if you're going to heaven or hell, you're going to hell. Speaking in tongues, cartwheels, hollering shit, and that kind of church. Okay. So I was raised to believe that being gay was an abomination, right? I was raised to believe that there was something not natural about someone. So I went from that just to believing that these people aren't evil, they're just sick, to people to being against this, to being against that, until I met a friend of mine, or had a friend of mine that I found out was gay. Right. And then you take some time away because they find out you're an idiot, you're an anti-gay bigot, and then you take a few months away, and the next time you see him, you just want to say, hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing? You just want to give him a hug, because you don't see that person as a nail anymore. I'm not that hammer that sees that person as a nail anymore. I see, if I nail that, I'm gonna break that person, because that's not a nail. That's not a machine. That's a human being. And that was a start for me having this path to understanding just we're all people, right? And then boom, my sister's lesbian, right? My aunt's lesbian. So it's one of those things where I have a story to tell too, right? And I came back. I'm not saying, I hate saying if I could come back from that, you can come back from that, because that's not holy. Look at this shit. That's not wholly what I'm saying. Yeah. All I'm trying to say is that if we can have a conversation with some of these people that are hammers, don't give up on some of these people. You don't cancel them. You don't censor. Look, the reason why I was at for so long is because I censored everything. I censored myself. I censored everything.
Me too.
And because I didn't engage,
then you're safe.
I wasted all that time being uptight about gay people. Yeah. Being wound tight. Yeah. Being fearful. Being so ego-driven that just because I think someone's gay that they want me exclusively. And nobody wanted my fat ass back then. I was fat. So
yeah, but anytime that fear creeps in and keeps you from being yourself, you're off on the wrong track.
Yeah. Jesus, what a fucking episode.
Yeah. We always do this.
Well, and mind you, this is the one we came prepared.
I know, right?
I did better. I was less emotional when I was just speaking off the cuff. This is prepared. Is there anything else?
I don't know.
Did you have anything else?
Oh, we've covered it, man. Top
drawer, bottom drawer.
Oh, yeah. I like your story on that.
Great
Come
story.
on my website and you'll hear that.
Yeah?
I think you told that in
I did.
Yeah.
I think I said that on our podcast.
Good relationship advice. Really good.
Yes. If you guys ever want to know about how to get along with someone that you are so scared to be in love with that every time you look at each other you argue, think of top drawer, bottom drawer. That's Evan Corey's episode, and I entitle it. I might make it its own section and run that as an ad on YouTube. I'll call it top drawer, bottom drawer. Okay. YouTube will do an ad on that as long as it's 4 minutes or more. Okay. This year in sports, my God, Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins, Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Kyrie Irving gets to play.
Thank God.
I mean, he's sitting behind them.
I know.
He could sit behind them with no mask,
rules that don't make sense. Good God.
And I'm the one that gets flagged.
I know.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
The world doesn't always make sense. And
I'm just glad that we made it through without having to say the C word.
I stopped myself.
Good, because we covered so much without having to go there. Yeah. Yeah. And that's great, because that shows that we have other problems.
It's time to Yeah. You just got to connect on other stories, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Everybody listening, put yourself in a position where you can solve real problems and stop being hysterical about imaginary ones. All right?
Let's close with that.
Identify.
That's
Yep.
a great statement.
Wendy Jones, plug it.
All right. Come see my new website, Be Better with Wendy Jones, and my blog, The Optimist Journal, is there. I got a new podcast Jason's helping me do. It's called What I Meant to Say. And
You got Matt Prosser coming up, right?
I am loving doing that. Yeah. Yes, I do. I booked the next 3 weeks, Jay. Who do I have?
You got our guy who's going to get us canceled next week. The guy in the wheelchair. Yeah, he's going to get us canceled. Joey's going to get us canceled.
Joey Mitchell's coming. Matt Prosser.
Matt Prosser. What a story. How about talk about a story to tell, huh?
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Matt Prosser, AVP, guys.
Yeah.
Actually won an AVP with John Mayer. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes, I read that.
A lot of people forgot.
I tried to do
John Mayer won four times with Nygaard, Prosser, and Avatar.
And then next week I got my friend Russell, who I've known since high school, is an amazing basketball coach and school psychologist.
There it is.
Who's going to have tons of good stuff to say. So
yeah, you notice I didn't steal any of your guests
forward
this week, right?
I know, right? Well, we need to do I think we need to do a little breakdown after, when I do you tech, I do a conversation, and then you and I do like a 10 to 15 minute breakdown.
Because I really want to have Ruiz on my podcast,
right?
but I didn't want to steal all your guests because as a theater performer.
Oh,
Monica.
Monica. Yeah.
Monica Ruiz, right?
Yeah, she's coming.
There'd be so many colors, but I want, let's wait.
Just give it some space. And
stop messing with you, man.
No, God.
Holy shit. There it is, 2 hours.
All right. We hit it.
Dag. Oh, you must be hungry.
I am hungry.
Come to think of it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, guys, Wendy might love you, but I had enough of you. All right. In fact, I can't stand any of you. Thank you for taking this journey with us. Thank you for taking the Optimist Journal's journey. Thank you for taking the Options journey. Yep. This is episode 134 of the Option Podcast from my homie, Wendy Jones. That's you.
Thanks, guys.
I'm Jason DeBillius. Man, we're out. Love you to pieces, people. Here we go. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.